there was a TLC show, I think, called My 600-Pound Life, and I think at that point I was within 25 pounds of that. And I was like, dude, people get reality TV shows for this, and that is a wrong attention getter, to do whatever it takes. I knew I had kids, and just, I got so tired of living in misery and not being able to play with my kids. I couldn't stand for 10 or 15 minutes. Instead of making a lot of consecutive poor decisions, I said, man, I've got to start.
This is the Basu Lifestyle Show, the show about learning what it takes to build a superior you, mentally, physically, and financially. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And also check out BasuLifestyle.com to purchase merchandise to support the Basu Lifestyle. I'm joined by Pete Coleman. Pete Coleman at one point was up to 600 pounds. And now what are you at, Pete?
I was 306 this morning.
306 this morning. So how did you get to 600 pounds?
Lots of poor decisions, man. Hiding from my own shadow. So I was very successful, I guess, by world standards. I was running a top automotive shop in Colorado, lived in a nice neighborhood. But I made horrible decisions. I was drinking, drugs. Food was probably my biggest poisoner, my biggest drug. I would eat when I was happy, sad, excited, you name it. And just kind of, that was my comfort in a weird way, which is ironic because it made me terribly uncomfortable. So, and I think I told you when we talked briefly, like, man, I remember, one night sitting there watching TV, did a lot of that. And there was a TLC show, I think, called My 600-Pound Life, and I think at that point I was within 25 pounds of that. And I was like, dude, people get reality TV shows for this, and that is a wrong attention getter, and then I kind of looked around and I realized I had 2 kids, and this was the legacy that I was going to leave, if I didn't change something. And I just knew I had to, and I tried everything. I'd yo-yo diets. I'd, do great for a while, but you hear people say, hey, it's got to be a lifestyle change. And that sounds cliche and cheesy, until you're kind of there staring at it. And it's like, if I don't change, I am a time bomb. I'm on a path to destruction one way or another. Your heart and body can only take so much. So
how old were you at this point?
I was 20. Let's see. I was, I was 35. Yeah. 35 years old. So I'm 40 today.
So it's been 5 years. So you hit that point where you're watching the TLC show and you're like, I'm basically at this point where I could be on this show. So how do you decide, what's the first thing you do to kind of change your life? What did you decide to do?
Make a U-turn in just every way possible. So, people ask all the time, like, hey, what'd you do to lose weight? Okay. And without being, a jerk about it, I did the opposite of what I did to get there. So instead of making a lot of consecutive poor decisions, I said, man, I've got to start eating good. And if I can't do it, okay, that was a tough thing for me to admit, where if I was powerless or if I felt I didn't control the situation, I didn't know how to handle that. So I had a what's called a gastric sleeve surgery in 2019. So they go in and take out about 60-70% of your stomach and leave you, a portion of your former stomach. And what's crazy is when they go in there and do that, they can see, I think he said my stomach was, 2.5 times the size of a normal guy's stomach, just from all the,
just spreading out basically, yeah. Right?
And I remember I had to go eat 2.5 Chipotle burritos, man. Like,
wow,
who does that? So I knew I needed help. Okay. And I was so serious about it. I just said, hey, I need help. And if it means and this shortcut, or I've had people tell me that, and well, you cheated.
So yeah. So why'd you go that route?
I didn't want to fail again. So I was willing to do whatever it took to achieve that life I knew was out there. So when I did the gastric sleeve, it's amazing too. Like, even the doctor said, hey, this is a tool. This is just a tool. It's amazing how many people go through all that and still end up screwing it up. We're still just, he goes, you can do this. And he goes, you can still And tons of people do it. The failure rate on that is nuts. Okay. And they'll go do all this stuff and have surgery and physically, permanently alter their body. And in a couple months, they're back at McDonald's, So I said, man, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to commit to it. My mind, my choices, and this is just a tool in my tool belt. I will do whatever it takes. If it means I'm, slightly uncomfortable for the rest of my life, which I'm not now, I said, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I knew I had kids and just I got so tired of living in misery and not being able to play with my kids. I couldn't stand for 10 or 15 minutes without just horrible sciatic nerve pain. Doc said that it was the worst sleep apnea he'd seen in 20 years or something like that. So when they do those tests, when you have a sleep apnea moment, they call it an interruption. So 1 hour of sleep, he recorded 131 interruptions, which was you stop breathing for 10 seconds or more.
Yeah.
So 36 minutes or something like that is the math. Out of every hour, I was suffocating. I still remember the nurse's face. You're going through the pre-questionnaire checklist, and she goes, "Do you drink caffeine or energy drinks?" And I go, "Oh yeah." And she goes, "How many do you have?" And I remember I was drinking these things called Bang energy drinks. I was drinking 10 a day.
Yeah, that's oof.
Like I shudder to think, what that did to my heart.
How so while you're doing that, how do you not think about what you're putting in your body at that time? Like, what is kind of the mindset of it? You're just not thinking about it, you're just going through the motions?
Now, just make it to the finish line. Like, so I was pursuing a business at that point, that would have yielded great financial reward and stuff like that. And I was like, man, if I can just get there, like that destination happiness thing, if I can just make it there, then I'll lose weight, then I'll change, which is so bass backwards. It's just silly. But I at that point, it was either ignorance or arrogance or something like that, where I was trying to make it through the day. And the messed up thing is I drink 10 energy drinks and coffee and all this stuff, and I'd crash. I was so exhausted at the end of the days because I wasn't sleeping. It's like that stuff had no effect on me. I mean, it did. I'm sure it hurt my body and stuff, but that wasn't a priority for me at that point. It was, keep up with the Facebook life, buy the nice house, whatever people think I'm successful, even though I'm 500 and some pounds, and, oh, you carry it well. I heard that all the time. It's like, yeah. So it was just one bad decision after another. So I was covering up mistakes and poor decisions with more mistakes and poor decisions. And I said, this is going to catch up to me at some point. I'd rather not be in my 40s and have a heart attack in front of my wife and kids, or so as I started to think about that stuff more and more, which is what you're asking, the repercussions of my decisions, it started to, no pun intended, weigh pretty heavily on me. So that's when I decided I'm going to do whatever it takes. And if I can't, I don't want to yo-yo anymore. So I said, I'm going to permanently commit. I'm going to go get a surgery. I'm going to use that tool to the best of my ability. The doctor said, hey, this thing, if you do all your cards right and play everything well, you should yield, like 100 to 120 pounds weight loss. Okay. If you stick to the bariatric diet and all that stuff. So I lost the 300 pounds in just over a year, which was their kind of poster child for that. So, but I was, I was super aggressive about it at that point.
So what did you do after the surgery? What were kind of the things you were eating? How were you exercising? What changes did you make? Because you didn't obviously start lifting right away, like heavy weights. You weren't running. Like you have to start slow.
Yeah, I couldn't at all. So I remember I started walking. Okay, just moving. Like, so I went from, completely inactive and immobile to I'm going to take baby steps. Okay. I had a buddy tell me, he goes, man, you can never out train a bad diet. Bodybuilder guy, right? He goes, it doesn't matter. He goes, if you eat like crap and you treat your body like crap, you can go work out 6 hours a day. It doesn't matter. Okay. He goes, focus on your diet. Okay. So I crushed the diet as far as I stuck to the bariatric stuff, which was kind of like eat your weight in protein, drink your water, laid off the caffeine. And it was tough. I mean, it was decades of bad habits, getting broken. But again, I think I scared myself in such a good way that I knew I was going to die. I was a partier in college, and I did, just like, I'm like, man, if I keep doing this, I'm going to die. I've got wife and kids that depend on me. So that
you have 4 kids at this time, correct? In 2019, when you're
no,
did you have all 4 or you had 3?
Yep. Yep. So I've got boy, girl, boy, boy. So the last boy hadn't been born yet. Um,
But
but
before then, you basically were you able to play with them at all, or how did that go and how did that feel?
I mean, I guess like it was pathetic, and when I look back, it was sad. It's like, and I still beat myself up some days on that stuff, but I couldn't get up and down off the ground without a struggle. Like I couldn't put my shoes on without being out of breath, and that stuff just seems so foreign now. But I try to keep that fresh in my head to remember because I'll never go back. Um, but no, I mean, like I said, I couldn't stand without horrible, horrible back pain. That was, I mean, I'd interrupt somebody 10 minutes into a conversation and go, "Hey, I got to go." So playing with my kids, like running around the yard, that wasn't a thing. Rolling around the ground, maybe like let them dogpile me kind of thing. But it was a muted attempt on being the dad I should be. So, not to mention, my wife, like God bless her, but you're limited in a lot of ways. Like you name it, physically, emotionally, sexually, like it's just, people don't want to talk about it, but it was a miserable existence, and I don't know how I did it for so long other than drive and hustle and, but for all the wrong reasons and all the wrong whys, so.
You were just kind of pushing the starting point, I guess, of exercising and in shape till after you accomplished that next thing. And then there was just always a next thing to accomplish.
Yeah. So whatever I could do to get better. So I focused really hard on the diet. I remember I couldn't do a single push-up, so I started doing push-ups on the kitchen island we had at home, and I mean, which is a huge, obviously incline, but that was tough. And then I would move to, the stairs and move to like the ottoman until I gradually got to the point where I could do like a push-up on the ground. Now I start every single day with 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 air squats, all that stuff. Like, but if I have to tell people something about that part of it, man, eat an elephant one bite at a time. Just don't stop. Don't sit there and be stationary, and definitely don't feel bad for yourself. There's only one person that got me in that situation. I can blame it on trauma and be a victim, and it's just not who I was, man. I made decisions. Nobody held me at gunpoint. Nobody said, hey, you need to drink 10 energy drinks and eat like crap all day, every day. And, so I knew I was responsible, and ownership and accountability are huge to me. And I looked in the mirror and said, I've taken terrible ownership of my own outcome. So I kind of used that instead of being, guilt tripping myself about the dad I wasn't and the husband I wasn't. I just said that is fuel to my fire, and I'm going to do whatever it takes, come hell or high water, and I'm going to change. So
yeah, because that could spiral you upward or downward, basically. You could either spiral
Yeah.
downward by thinking about that, or you can use it as fuel, like you said, to kind of get better and make the changes. So
And I did.
for somebody, no, keep going. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I used it for both, but at that point it was just, it's hard to describe. You just have to make a decision. Like you've heard people say, hey, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, like there wasn't a ton of good stuff, like other than my job, I'm not putting that on my tombstone. That doesn't define me. What defines me is the legacy I leave, right? Or the example of my marriage to my kids. I mean, those things haunt me. And if I'm angry, toxic, deprived of sleep, in pain all the time, how the hell am I supposed to be what I should be? You can't. You just can't. So you got to let go of those things. And what was killing me was horrible habits, horrible choices. And I said, I'm not doing it. I love the Goggins stuff and all those guys. Okay. You have to make a choice where you kind of become crazy about it. And that becomes your number one focus. Like I even said, man, if I'm going to do this, I'm willing to lose my job. I'm willing to do this. And maybe that's drastic, but I was, right. If that means my workout time or my diet is somehow interfered with this, I'll find something else, because that's more important in the long run. The big picture was I need to be healthy. It was physical, emotional, mental, all of it. So.
Yeah, people will say, oh, working out's selfish, but at the same time, like you have to be selfish and prioritize yourself and your well-being, because if you're not in a good place mentally and physically, you can't be that role model to your family.
Yep. You can't, like I remember my wife reading this story to me, and it's true, I guess. Lions. Okay. So the females in the pride go out and hunt, right? and they bring back the kill. But guess who the first one to eat is? It's the males, right? And it's not a chauvinistic thing. It's not all that. If the male isn't fed, nourished, ready to go, he can't take care of his family when the jackals and hyenas come, right? That's so he eats first, right? So, and I was eating last, okay, but it wasn't like anybody wasn't letting me eat. I was just eating the wrong stuff, literally. So
Yeah, you weren't prioritizing yourself and your well-being.
yeah.
What kind of changes? So you start exercising, you're going to start walking, and then you slowly go to the gym. What did it feel like going to the gym for the first time? Because there's going to be people who are going to the gym for the first time. How does it feel? Because everybody feels the same way, but they don't realize it until somebody says it.
It sucks. I mean, the only way to say it, it's miserable. It's painful. Like now I look forward to it. I love it. But there was a long season where every bit of it required the mental conditioning. Like I want to quit. Like, I mean, things as simple as I'm not going to do my last set of 10 reps. I'm going to do 8. You know, I deserve it. It's like, there's no more shortcuts, Pete. You just lived the last couple decades taking shortcuts, you know. It's going to be painful. You know, no growth comes from comfort. That's the most true thing in life, right? If you're going to grow through something, you've got to first go through it. You got to put in your time. And I put in so much time and effort the other way. I almost felt in debt, you know, like to myself and to the people around me. Because I'd given them the scraps. I'd given them the worst parts of me, the angry parts, the sleep deprived parts, the miserable, the toxic. Like, so I go, this is my time to suffer. Like I have to step up to the plate. And if I'm going to change, part of this is it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be painful. So I encourage, like I saw a guy at the gym a couple of weeks ago, and the dude was just, you know, sweating like a hostage, big guy, really overweight. And I just got this God nudge, and I walked over to him. Hey, sorry to interrupt your workout, dude. I said, hey, take your headphones out. And he kind of goes, what's up, man? I said, I showed him a picture on my phone. And I said, dude, not to impress. I said, please keep going. Like whatever you got going on, don't stop. Like you can do it, man. I'm a success story, but it's terrible. Like that feeling you have right now. And the guy was like purple, you know. I said, there's going to come a day where you're just going to feel a little bit better, right? Where that's going to be a little bit easier, and you get that windfall and you feel good, or you look in the mirror, or you put on that shirt, okay, or your wife says something, or crap, you're playing ball with your kids, and instead of 10 minutes, it's 35 minutes, okay? And the dude just welled up. He almost had nothing to say. I said, hey, I'm Pete. If I can do anything for you, you know, help you with anything, be your accountability partner, you need it. And the guy almost couldn't speak, you know, and he's like, I can't tell you how much that means to me. And I said, man, I wish somebody, you know, but we can't rely on that either. You know, we can't rely on motivation and, you know, encouragement. Those things are wonderful and they're needed, but they're fleeting, right? So consistency and discipline, you have to keep going, you know, put your feet on the floor. The alarm clock goes off. It's not time to cuddle up. It's time to get to work. So.
Yeah. And I think 2 things out of that. The first thing is nobody in the gym is judging you. Like, I feel like everybody goes in, gets started, and feels like, oh, they're watching me. Nobody's there to watch you. Nobody's there judging you. Everybody in the gym is like looking at you. And if you're heavy or if you're this or that, like, okay, my man's here. He's putting his work in. She's putting her work in. Everybody there, 99% of people are encouraging you to keep going, just not physically like you did going up to them, which is still something that everybody should also do to like the young guys or guys who look like they need a little boost. Everybody likes a compliment.
Yeah. But we see these, I do too. I see guys at the gym all the time. Man, I wish I had that guy's physique, right? That guy started somewhere. They all started somewhere, and they all probably have their own demons. They all got their own stuff they're fighting. It's just, you know, we get there when we're in that state and we feel like our insecurities are magnified, which isn't the case. And I think if more people were willing to extend, you know, that kindness and that brotherhood and lift a hand up, which is rare in this world, and just go, hey, man, I don't know you from Adam, but dude, keep going. Like whatever you're going through, just don't stop. Like, we probably have a healthier culture. We probably have healthier families and all that stuff too. So,
yeah, because I think nobody dislikes a compliment. Everybody likes to be complimented. It's just hard to be the one to go out and do it, especially now because everybody's wearing headphones. Everybody's in their own little zone. You don't want to offend anyone, but everybody likes a compliment. So it's good to go over and say, "What's up, man? You're doing great," or "Keep pushing."
Yep.
What
Absolutely.
So you didn't work. Did you play sports or anything in high school? Were you into sports at the time or not really? Okay.
I wasn't always super heavy, so I was always a big kid. Like I remember my freshman class in high school football, we won state. Okay. And we had 3 guys that were 300 pounds on our front, offensive line, which was a crazy thing back then. So as a freshman, I think I was 6'2", 6'3", something like that. And 300 pounds, a big boy. It wasn't until I went to college. So I played rugby, I played football, and I ended up stopped playing football because I liked rugby so much, and played rugby kind of all over the world. Made a under 19 like Olympic team, but it wasn't the Olympics. It was called a U19 team. So we got to travel and play Canada, England, all that stuff. Okay, so there was a point where at that weight I could run for a couple miles and felt great. And I got to college, and God bless my folks and my family. I was raised Catholic, strict. I never drank in high school, rarely maybe, but it was very taboo, and I kind of had the healthy fear of my parents and stuff like that. So I got to college and kind of went wild. Okay, so it was partying, drinking, drugs, whatever, call it experimenting. Okay, not a proud chapter of my life, but again, if I didn't have the experiences, I wouldn't be here. And I just gradually kind of got bigger and got lazier and got just kind of got sloppy. And it's amazing. Then you start bringing kids and job and career and all that stuff into the picture, which is one of my big things. I think there's so many guys that are just that quiet suffering, men, middle age, whatever, and it just sneaks up on you. Like you always want, and I was always big, and if I always had the kind of physique where had I applied myself 20 years ago, I might, be the Rock kind of thing. Not really, but I'd look wonderful.
Yeah,
but I just kind of became lazy, and you feel like you're untouchable in your 20s, and you get to a point, and all of a sudden it's like I woke up and I'm like, man, I've been working for 10 years, and I've got a couple kids now, and I'm not handling the stresses of life. I'm consuming them. I'm not facing things head on. I'm just, I deserve an 18 pack this weekend, and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to go eat whatever the hell I want because I make good money. You're like stupid things you justify to yourself. And then you wake up and you're watching that show at 1:00 in the morning on TLC, and you're going, I'm a quarter of a ton. Like they give contracts to people to talk about how fat they are like that. What am I doing? I just kind of had this, whoa, like this is not healthy. This is bad. I need to change. I'm going to die. So yeah.
What did it feel like when you started exercising? Because I feel like most people in the gym, once you get into it, you really find like a higher level of yourself once you start exercising. And it's something that I feel like it's hard to explain, but like there's this mental level that you reach that takes you to a next level. Did you find that clarity also?
100%. Yeah. So your mind is always going to be, what's going to get you through it. Okay. Your body will want to quit, and your body will send signals and go, hey, this is painful. This sucks. Okay. And it seems so counterintuitive being sleepless on these energy drinks just to make it through the day. Okay. I was like, how am I going to get up earlier when I'm already exhausted and go exert myself? And I'm supposed to feel better after that in this miserable, and somebody out there can say it better than me, but there's some physiological reaction where you go and spend an hour dripping sweat and you're tired. Okay. But you've also got endorphins and serotonin and all this stuff that happens. Okay. And you find out things about yourself like, hey, I can do this, right? I'm not this quitter, and I'm not this guy that I have to be. Okay. I will finish my set. I will not compromise. There's things that, like Michael talks about, man, non-negotiables, right? So you start making promises to yourself. And if you don't break those things, that higher level, that new consciousness you get, it gets sharper and sharper and sharper. And then you begin to crave it. So I don't know when that turn happens. I think it's after you just keep so many promises to yourself. When you can look yourself in the mirror and be proud of the guy looking back at you, which was a long time for me, there's so much good that comes from the gym or working out, whatever you want to call it, whatever your thing is, like it opens up an entire different world of confidence, security, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all that stuff, man. If you don't take care of your body first, the other things just get bled onto, and they get messier and messier and messier, and it affects them all. And you're naive to think it doesn't. And I thought I was bulletproof and nothing's ever going to catch me. And boy, was I wrong. So
Yeah, everything really snowballs. One thing is going to lead to the next thing and lead to the next thing. So if you start by going to the gym and now you're holding yourself accountable, like you said, to your sets, you leave the gym feeling good, then what are you going to do? You're going to eat the right meals. You eat the
yeah,
right meals, then you're going to feel good at night and you're with your wife and your kids now. And what are you going to do? You're going to treat them better. You're going to be happy with them. Like your
yeah,
level of consciousness, like you said, is just at a whole nother level that people don't understand until you're there. And that's one of the
yeah,
reasons that we're talking right now, because once you reach that level, you want to bring other people into it. Like you
yeah.
just want other people to know that life could be this good.
I want guys to feel good, man. I don't want. I look around and I see it in our. It's rampant in our society where we celebrate mediocrity, celebrate complacency, and just say, that's how you're. No, it's really not. Okay, and it's not fair to anybody around you or yourself just to settle on those things, right? Um, yeah, just resting on your laurels is it's not good, you know. And there's a whole world out there um, that you just don't have to be a part of, and there's a better life. I mean, there's it just plain and simple. Like I am happier, I am more content, I am more fulfilled, okay, as a man. And it all started from working out, and it started from eating right, okay. And yeah, like you said, man, building those, you know, putting those bricks in the wall, right? So if I'm on a tear and my diet is just on point, okay, I want to amplify it. I can fast forward a little bit, right? I can make the pain and the discomfort diminish slightly, okay. But you also kind of grow to crave that, which is a weird thing too, right? um, but you want to keep putting those bricks in to the point, like Goggins says, I became obsessive about it, okay. You're not going to get me off my diet, you know. And my dad always used to say private victories precede public ones, right? So you're not going to tell everybody, hey, I just want to let you know I had 2 chicken breasts for lunch and I drank a half a gallon of water. Just want you to pat me on my head and I'll get a gold star later, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody cares, okay. But what people do care about is when you walk into a room and I go, what's up with Coleman? Like, dude, you look good. You look really, and it's genuine. They can't stop. Or your wife, you put a shirt on and you go, hey babe, we got to go to the store. Why? None of this stuff fits. I was a 52, almost a 54-inch waist. I could only shop at, Destination XL, big and tall, maybe. Um, and like, dude, if I hold those pants up now, I can fit in a lake. You know, now I've got a 36-inch waist at 300 pounds. Um, but those private victories will absolutely precede the public ones, but it takes you to do the work. Like nobody else is going to put those blocks in the wall for you. But when you're done, there's nothing better than your wife going, that's a beautiful wall you're building. You look really great. And you're going,
How did your relationship change once you started getting in shape and kind of feeling better about yourself? How did your relationship with just your wife change?
oh, exponentially, man. I mean, I was toxic, like I said, man. I'll have a couple beers or something like that, maybe. Okay, but it's a treat or it's on vacation or I'm not going to keep that stuff around, but or I'll have a glass of wine with her at dinner. But um, I took out probably too much on her in hindsight, just where I'd be irritable, I'd be tense, I'd snap at her. And I refused to use the crutch. Well, it wasn't really me. It was 100% me. It was the choices I made that made me that way. So she had put up a wall, for a long time because she was guarded and she was always there to support me, but I probably wasn't a joy to be around. I was a mess. I mean, that's just plain and simple. I was a dumpster fire, man. Like, so I start changing and I start feeling good. Here's another one of those private victories precede the public ones, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm more approachable. I'm more kind, right? Your love life improves drastically. It's pretty impossible to have a good sex life at 575 pounds. It just doesn't exist. It does not equate well. So once I put myself first, and I had to be selfish, like you said, for a while. then I was able to give back. Okay. And that's a guilt trip thing too, where, the devil tries to isolate you and say, hey man, you're being pretty selfish and you're this and that, and you're going to go take another hour and a half or 2 hours from your wife and kids. Yeah, I will, because I know I'm going to get it back tenfold in a year. Okay. When I feel so good, I'm going to go challenge my kids to a foot race. I'm going to go ride the bike up the street and take them to the park, and we're going to play until the sun goes down. Okay. So if I have to give up that time now and sacrifice that today, it's the opposite of where I was. Okay. If I'm not going to give up the time and I'm going to eat and drink and do all this crappy stuff, in a year, I'm going to feel worse. I'm going to have less time to do it. Okay. I'm not going to get out of bed or whatever it is. So I would just flip the script in my head and go, man, I gave my wife scraps. I gave my kids scraps. I know I did. Okay. And I own every bit of it. But now, I'm out there every weekend playing catch with the kids and riding bikes. And my wife and I are doing better than ever and own a business together. It's just like it opens up levels you can't possibly even comprehend when you're there. You just have to keep putting your feet on the floor, and you have to keep making the next right decision. That's all it is.
And your kids, how have you seen them change, like your relationship with them?
Night and day. All they want is my time. And any dad, right? That all they want is your time. Their love is unconditional. We should be jealous of the the love those kids are able to give. And I beat myself up on that for a long time too. That I was a crappy dad. And I probably have a little bit of that FOMO now in my subconscious, where that fear of missing out, and I did miss out some stuff, and but I just don't waste time. I told my wife the other day, like, hey, if you don't make my life better, and I wasn't talking to her, I was talking about just people. I said, if you don't make my life better in some way, I don't have time for you. Okay. And it's not that I'm going to be a jerk, or I'm going to, I just don't. I got 4 kids and they all want my time and attention, and it feels really good. Okay. To be able to give them full, unedited, not irritable, not anything. And I'm rolling around the ground and all that stuff. So, but also it's now I have a place to speak to them, right? Like they saw me, at least my older kids, for a point where, guys, and I own it too. I go, guys, I was in bad shape. Okay. But this is what I am now. You see me make changes. Okay. And I can talk to them and not just be pot calling the kettle black. Hey guys, don't eat the fun dip. Okay. You guys we're not getting the sugar, and I'm not a weirdo about it and all that stuff, but they know what I did. Okay. Especially my oldest one, he's 10. And they're big kids anyway. It's like, and I've told them, I said, hey, Cade, you don't want to be there. Like, you don't want to be where dad ended up, so don't make the good choices now, like his role models, like the Aaron Donalds and the Rocks. And I said, man, you can do it, but it ain't going to be through fun dip. And it's not going to be through, make good choices. Right. And he understands that now because he saw me do it, so I can speak from a place of perspective and a place of love. And they know I'm not beating him up, and they know, that I want the best for them, and they saw me change and all that. So am I closer to my kids? 110%. Right. And I can give them the time they deserve, which is awesome.
And what kind of standards do you set as a parent? Because we're all trying to raise the next generation to be kind of better than our generation, which has a lot of victim mentality in it. So what are some of the standards you guys set to kind of raise your kids to be better than you were, basically?
Accountability and ownership is a big one, right? So you are the sum of your choices. And again, that's where I can speak from perspective, right? So the sum of my choices 5 years ago was a fat, toxic guy. The sum of my choices now, I am full of encouragement. I'm full of hope. I'm full of love. Okay. I will tell them, you probably shouldn't do that. Or, man, if you, like, my oldest loves to play video games. I said, cool, there's nothing wrong. I don't have a problem with video games. Okay. But you're going to earn it, right? It's going to be a chapter of reading. It's going to be a 30-minute workout. Okay. You might not like me for it now, or the days where you just don't want to take the hard stuff, but you're going to be accountable, right? You're going to either do it or you're not. So, and they know I love just rattling off quotes, and they just laugh at me sometimes. But one of my favorites is, hey, at the end of the day, you will have made it, whatever it is to you, a priority or an excuse. Okay. So if you really don't want to play video games, cool, don't do it. That's fine. You can just do whatever you want. But if you want something, he wants a dirt bike right now. Okay. How are you going to go earn it? Like there's got to be something in front of you. So I try really hard to teach them hard work. I try to teach them to just hate being complacent and hate being there. You know, like, and I said, dude, you will not have to look far in this world to find people that will allow you to be mediocre and celebrate it. Okay. I'll love you no matter what, but I am not going to allow you to be mediocre, and I'm certainly not going to celebrate it. Right. So I want my kids, you know, to grow up and be independent, meaning they're not leeches of society, right? They make decisions, they stand by them, they do the right thing. Right and wrong is a blurred line nowadays, which sounds foreign. I mean, they have a clear conscience. My kids know who God is. You know, they know that if you make 20 bad decisions eating food, you're going to end up like dad. If you make 20 bad decisions and lie to your parents, you're going to be locked in your room, or, you know, or not really, but you're going to be grounded, whatever it is. So, accountability, ownership. And I just tell them, hey, nobody's ever going to lie in this house. Okay. I lied to myself for years. We're just not going to do it. I said, I promise I will never get mad if you tell the truth. Right. So those things are, I think, enough for 4 kids under 10, meaning right and wrong, and take accountability for your choices. So.
Yeah. And I mean, living the standard is totally different than being 600 pounds and telling them you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that. I mean, the differences I'm sure you've seen just by actually living it, and they want to do more of what you're doing. Now they're probably watching you do push-ups and they want to do push-ups.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. So, and they'll do, it's kind of, you know, you always want to change your family tree. At least I do, right? Like you said, better than the next generation. And kids are sponges, man. So had I continued on that path, I guarantee you right now, I'd have a kid that's pre-diabetic or, you know, whatever. Just that is such a miserable path to look down. And it's almost a blessing in hindsight. I mean, it is a blessing, like, because I can speak with so much heart and speak with so much vigor about where I was and where I am now, that my kids are proud of me, you know, which is a wonderful thing. That's the public victory, right? Like my oldest had a buddy over, you know, the other day, and he goes, Mr. Coleman, he goes, me and the guys were talking, like, you're one of the scary guys. You're a buff dude. And I was like, oh man, I go, I'm not scary at all. I was like, I know, but you kind of look scary. You had like sleeveless shirts the other day. And I'm like, okay. And it made me laugh. And I'm like, and I go, I still don't think about myself like that at all. You know, and like, I've been heavy in one way, shape, or form my whole life. I've always been the big guy, you know, so I'm just trying to be better, you know. But what a wonderful thing that your, you know, 10-year-old kid and his buddies think you're, you know, that's cool. It's flattering, but it's like,
you're the jack guy in the neighborhood. There's nothing wrong with being the jack guy in the neighborhood.
right? Yeah, dude. So it just makes you smile, because it's like, what a change in a couple of years. And anyway, so it's a wonderful thing. And I tell him, I go, hey, Aaron Donald started somewhere. These guys all started somewhere. And it's just years of good decisions and stuff like that. And I go, you got to want that more than you want anything else, you know, so you do whatever you want.
Yeah, you are the example. You're living the example. There's no better standard you could set.
Right.
So what does it take to build a superior version of you, and how do you continue to do it? If you had to kind of say that to your kids or leave something for someone else.
Consistency and discipline. So even if you have to go through the motions, right? Because you might have that day at the gym where you don't feel good. Guess what happens to everybody, right? I don't want to go. Most days I don't want to go. And then I get there and I'm like, man, why did I ever not want to go? Or you're there and you just, man, you might not feel it. Okay. But I am going to finish it. It is non-negotiable. Okay. If nothing else, maybe I didn't get the gains that day, or, you know, didn't hit a PR, but I didn't lose this, right? So I didn't lose, because the biggest struggle for me, and I know for a lot of guys, it's the space between your ears. Okay. So if I say no and I give into, you know, as Joe Rogan calls, sorry, that inner bitch, but it's true. And if I go, yeah, sweetheart, you deserve it, you know, take a couple days off, you'll be okay. No, because that is a loss. And it's just, that's the truest kind of loss, where if you quit or you don't go, you absolutely know what the outcome is going to be, right? If you go, even if you go through the motions, You have no idea where that day is going to take you, who you might meet, how you might feel after, right? The example you might set, your kid, your wife might be going through something. They go, hey, Pete got up and he did it again. He did it again, right? And somebody else might see that, and that's my saving grace. But I don't break promises to myself anymore, man. Like, it breeds weakness between your ears, and that spiral is a slippery slope, I think, for a lot of guys. I know it was for me. So get up and do it. Just be consistent. Like, here's another thing too. If you slip on your diet, guess what? So does everybody else. You slip, get right back on the horse, right? Don't get ready and go, okay, well, I ate a cheeseburger and a milkshake today, so it's Tuesday. Let's see. On Monday, I'm going to restart no. Start tonight. Start. The next thing you put in your face is going to be water, and you're going to make a good decision, and you're going to go for a walk, So otherwise, what is it? The theory of entropy says all things left unattended to will eventually fall to chaos, right? So if you just let it go, your grass gets pretty tall out front, your marriage starts to suffer, whatever it is, right? So
yeah, life is momentum. So you're either building it up or building it down. I really barely have any cheat meals, and people are always like, oh, loosen up, do this, do that. I don't drink at all. And it has nothing to do with me judging you. I don't care what you do. I hit my meals because if I hit my meals, I do my workouts, I win the day. Then I want to win tomorrow. And if I keep winning the days, I'm happier. I'm a better person. And that's how I build a superior version of myself. You can call it selfish, but you got to live it. You got to live a standard, and you have to go after what you want in life. And you can't feel like I can't accomplish something. Just go after it. What happens if you don't make it? At least you try. Yeah. I do not, like Goggins says too, man, I do not want to be the 80-year-old or the dead guy looking back and saying, I could have been this, I could have been that. Fuck that.
Oh yeah. I had a guy tell me the day, a buddy in a Bible study, and he goes, man, I'd rather live a life of many failures than one of a single regret. And I was like, ooh, like, my wife came to me last year and she goes, I feel terrible saying this. I said, what's up? She goes, I don't know if I'm like cut out to do the stay-at-home mom thing forever. I go, okay, what do you want to do? She's like, I want to open a business. Let's go. Right? Like, let's go. And with the, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a sec, but with the stuff that I went through the last couple of years with her, being in that operating room and stuff, like, man, YOLO means something totally different than it did 5 years ago. Right? Catchphrase. It's like, no, you only live once. And this is not a dress rehearsal. Dude, I don't fail anymore. It's just not a thing. It's not how we think. I learn, right? The L is a learn. It's a lesson. It's something to go forward with. I don't spend time dwelling on, man, I screwed up, or man, I wish I would have, gone. Dude, I tried it. I failed. Okay. Like did I finish, or did I run the race or whatever? Man, maybe I didn't make it in time, but I guarantee you, if you think about it, it's never a loss. Pick up what you learn and go tackle the next thing. Go take that stuff. There's always a lesson. Okay. It's just how you choose to think about your day or think about the loss or the win, I think determines so much of your future. It's just so many people get stuck and get, pity party and all this stuff. And yeah.
Yeah. You're always going to feel like you shouldn't get started. You're always going to feel like an imposter when you do start, and you're going to fail. But just keeping at it's what life's all about. That's why we have YouTube channels and people motivating you to keep going, because sometimes you're going to need it, but you need to get up and just keep at it.
Bingo.
So I don't want to take like too much of your time, and I don't want to get too deep into what we're going to have to come back, because I do want you to tell your story of how you almost died, but we're going to leave them cliffhanging so they have to come back for another video.
Cool.
So how can people who want to kind of get in touch with you, because maybe they're where you were and they're like, hey man, I need somebody to reach out to, just a message on Instagram, on Facebook. How can they find you? Is that cool if they reach out to you?
Man, I had a guy I never met through our mutual friend, Michael. I posted something on his page the other day, and this guy just, sent me a message, and he's like, I just got a nudge to talk to you. And I said, cool, what's going on? He goes, I think I'm an alcoholic. Cool. Let's figure it out. Right. Like, so been talking to some stranger, and it's amazing. I've never met you. I've never met Michael. I feel like I've known you guys for a while. And if that guy got a God nudge, I don't take that stuff lightly. Let's go. Okay. I am all about service. Okay. Meaning I live to serve. Okay. I won't waste time. Nobody's going to do it for you, but man, I will happily be there and say, this is what I went through. This is where you're at. and at least give you my time and give you a peace of my mind, and in a good way. And, you know, we all need that motivation and that spark. Okay. But I'm here to help. So yeah, people can look me up. Yeah. I'm happy to talk to people.
What's your Facebook and what's your Instagram?
It's Pete J. Coleman, and then my on Facebook, and then my Instagram is 17 underscore Pete the Patriot underscore 76, which you can put in here, and I'll give you the stuff after. So
Yeah, send it to me. I'll put it in the comments below. So feel free to reach out to Pete if you need somebody to talk to. You need a little word of encouragement, because we all start somewhere, and sometimes it's good to connect to somebody who's starting where you were at some point.
absolutely, man. Happy to help.
Yeah, Pete, man, thanks for your time.